Hello and welcome to this week 15. Can you believe it? Oh my gosh, I can't believe we've actually got to this point. But this week we're going to be talking about purpose, power, and backbone, redefining business with heart and impact. And today is the 30th of October. So this comes from the chapter in Friday Bridge a book that I wrote, my first book over a decade ago, which is still selling very well. And it comes from the chapter about me creating a business, having come from a very working class background. Parents were working in they weren't in corporate. My mum worked for a small retail store, and my dad worked on the farm and then went into working in health and safety in a factory. So I didn't come from an entrepreneurial background. I started my first business when I was 21. That was publishing multimedia and software and developing the content that goes on those. And now I'm here almost 30 years later, having had my own businesses that whole time. And this business that I currently have came out of me facing my own mortality and realizing there was more to life than just profit. So that's the background of today. I am Dawn Bates, your host, and we are going to get cracking. I'm on my own today because my lovely assistant Tai is having a couple of days off, well deserved. So yes, I hope that you're having a great time, Tai. Okay, so just to give you some a synopsis, as we always do, is how to align purpose and profit without losing of soul is what we're going to be covering today. Why integrity is a new currency of influence, turning disruption into a healing force for people and the planet. How to stay grounded when your mission challenges the mainstream, building a brand that stands for something and the test of time, and being in business is a privilege and an honor. And I can see I've forgotten a couple of full stops there, but that's okay. I don't profess to be an editor, but there we go. So when I talk about purpose and profit and alignment and integrity, there's a lot of things in there that can actually mean quite a few different things. Like this, the seat I'm sat on, when I sit on it, I know that it's got integrity because it holds me up. It does what it says it's going to do, provide me with a seat. Our purpose is the thing that keeps us awake. It's that thing that, we know that we have to do it regardless. Now, whether your purpose is to serve children or to uncover the truth, or whether it is to be a nurse, not my forte. God bless the nurses of the world. You won't get me changing bedpans and dealing with blood and stuff. Sticking needles in people. Not my purpose. I'm not going there. Mm-hmm. And again, talking about influence, because back in 2020, I was voted one of the top 10 media influencers. And I was like, holy moly. But it wasn't because I was a social media influencer. It was because I influenced people who were in business. I influenced communities. I influenced government. And I had a lot of influence in community projects. So again, looking at what influence is for you. So we're going to be exploring that and basically how to stay grounded and not allow ego to take over and think you're oh so fabulous, nothing can happen to you. Well, it absolutely fucking does. And one of the things that we're also going to be looking at is when you're building your brand, whether that is you as the brand or whether it is your company as the brand or your product as the brand, making sure that we honor that and looking at the long term. So it's more about a legacy rather than just a quick one night stand. Thank you very much. And how being in business really is a privilege because there are lots of people who don't have access to the resources and the support that those of us who are in business have. Now, some of us don't have that much support, but we still have support one way or another. So that's what we're going to be covering today. Now, why am I someone who apparently just writes books for a living? Heard that recently. I was like, really? Shows how much you know of what goes into writing a book. Because this is the thing, when you're a writer and whether you're writing articles for a newspaper as on a freelance basis, whether you're writing articles for magazines or you're writing books or scripts or screenplays, You have a business. You are creating a product, and you have to understand the world of business. Now, as for me as a writer, it is not just looking at, what book can I produce? Here's my menopause book. You can't see it because I've got all the blurry background on. I don't know if you can see it now, but you can't. Um, what do people do when they read? They have a mug of cocoa or they have a cup of tea. They need a bookmark. They might want a cozy hoodie. Looking at all of the different things that goes into your core product, looking at contracts, looking at legalities, looking at sales and marketing, the accounting, all of these things go into being a writer. Of one way or another. You actually have to fund your lifestyle whilst you're writing. Because if you're writing a book, that includes researching, that includes writing it, the production of it, that includes the marketing and the sales, and protecting your integrity and your copyright. So again, so what are you writing? And how is it different? These are the things that I, as a businesswoman, have had to deal with. Now, I've coached some very, very powerful leaders in some of the biggest companies in the world, which shocks me because I'm like, oh, really? What? Because again, sometimes we don't see who we are. I used to be a leadership coach when I was when I had my first company, because people were very impressed with what I did. I was asked to speak on stages. I was asked to mentor and coach other people, but I was also asked to be on the board of certain organizations and get involved in lots of community projects. So when we're creating our business, what time are we allowing ourselves to free up so that we can work on community projects? What time are we giving ourselves and what opportunities are we giving ourselves that we can actually give back to the local community? Are we sitting as a school governor? Are we looking at sitting on a on a charity's board of directors? Are we looking to partner with someone? Are we choosing a charity of the year? All of these things go into building the businesses and actually having a purpose to it, because again, it's getting that balance. So when we're talking about building something beautifully unusual, I like this phrase because when we are building something, we tend to look to other people. What are they doing? What are they doing? How is that working? How is that? And we sometimes we get lost in that process and we kind of blur into the background. We become so vanilla. We forget about what it was that we were striving to do in the first place because we get imposter syndrome. We go, well, if they're doing it that way, I've got to do it that way. Well, just because they're as much something my mom used to say, if so and so went and stuck his head in a gas oven, would you go follow suit? Probably not. If someone like stuck their hand in a fire, would you do the same? Yeah, no, not really. That would hurt. Again, I wouldn't stick my head in a gas oven. Probably not. Isn't definitely not. But again, just because other people are doing it and it works for their business does not mean to say it's going to work for you, your personality, and for your business model. So when you're building something beautifully unusual, consider yourself beautifully unusual. Consider the beauty within your own personality. Consider the things that give you joy, and that moments of gratitude, whether that's talking to the plants in the morning or saying good morning to crow as you walk past, or whether it's the fact that you have this knack with dogs or children or the elderly, or maybe you're funny, you want to build a business around comedy. Discover the beauty within yourself and the things that are unusual about you. What makes you different? And this is something that a lot of people struggle with. And when I'm working with my authors, and it's like, okay, this is your manuscript, but what makes it your manuscript? What makes this manuscript different that only you could write it? So, for example, when I'm reading Carmel or Amanda's book, I can feel their elegance. I can feel their softness. I hear their voice. And this is something that I really strive to do with my clients, help them honor their own voice within the chapters. And I know that many times when people have read my books, they've gone, oh my God, I've seen your videos, I've heard you on a podcast, or I've seen you on a summit, and I can so hear your voice, and I can see you waving your arms, and I can hear your giggle when I read your books. And that's what we want. We want to create something, whether it is a product, whether it's a drinks bottle, whether it is, a diary. We want something beautifully unusual that can be relevant, identified as your brand. Because then we get to influence how things are changing, such as Moleskin. They came out with a beautiful set of Kaye books. They've got the soft and hard leather bound notebooks, diaries, data page, and they kind of set the standard and the quality and the stage for how a lot of diaries and journals were going to be. And now you can identify a Moleskin or someone who's imitating Moleskin. And it's again those little things that make the USP for your business. Now, when I went sailing around the world and faffing around on boats, because obviously that's what I did. I mean, I was faffing on a few occasions, reading mostly, watching the sails as well, obviously, and helming. But me going around the world and traveling became my USP. And it's actually now one of the reasons why my manuscript assessments are more powerful than a lot of other people, well, most other people's, because of the fact that I've been able to look at the world in a very different way. I now look at the world through 47 lenses, 40 different cultural, like nation cultures. I look at it through different religious cultures and spirituality, and I look at it through different political systems. And I look at it through the local. So I have a globally local mindset. And if you were to pay me as a diversity consultant, and then you would pay me as an editor, and then you were to pay me as a marketing strategist and a business coach, you'd be paying a lot more for your manuscript assessment than what I'm charging. So again, it's knowing what value you bring and knowing what your USP is. How has your life led you to be so significantly different from other people? There's a friend of mine, Charlotte. She goes off on these wild animal adventures. She does these, jeeps across Africa, and she's always dancing on her LinkedIn posts. That's how she became known. That's what she does. And there's another lady that I know, Pascal. I follow her on LinkedIn. You can always guarantee that, as a public speaker, there's going to be some purple sparkles in there somewhere, or there's going to be a really, really bold color suit, monochrome suit. And you can identify her from in a lineup. And again, it's like these are the things. She had a car accident. She's come from theatre. So of course she's going to have great stage presence. She's had the theatre training and she's gifting that to other people. So again, look at what your passions are, what your hobbies are. Look at what the activities that you enjoy doing and how do they make you you, and how can they make that your USP. Now, to some of you who are listening, that's like, well, what's that got to do with purpose, power, and backbone? Well, if you can own who you are in today's homogenized Instagram, social media, vanity metric world, and you're prepared to stand up for who you are and own who you are, that shows that you've got backbone. If you are prepared to speak up, like myself and some of my authors do, if you're prepared to speak up about certain issues which trigger the hell out of people, or offend people, then that takes backbone. If you are willing to build something so powerful for your life. Now, that power might be your own income because you've come from a family that maybe have lived on benefits forever. You might be the first entrepreneur in your family, like I am. My parents may have worked, but we're very working class, and people think, I speak the way I do, and I've traveled the world, and I've got this business, and I've written that I have a silver spoon in my mouth. Not really. Sheffield Steel, probably, having lived there for many years. But again, it's about looking at your life experiences and owning your power. Owning who you are is a power today, because we are told not to be ourselves. We're told we're not allowed to look like this. We're not allowed to say this. We're not allowed to think that. We have to do it this way. No, we don't. We don't have to do it anyway. So owning your power and owning your sovereignty and actually having the backbone to stand for it and stand for your purpose, that thing that keeps you driving every day. Like when I get messages from my readers, I had a message from a reader after she read Moana, and it was me writing about rape. And this lady said to me, if it hadn't have been for your book, I wouldn't have been able to relate to my daughter who had gone through it. It helped me understand to a better degree what it was that she had gone through. Now, obviously, one rape is not the same as another. And one business is not the same as another. One lifestyle choice is not the same as another. But when we write things that trigger people, and we stand in our truth, and we actually have um, the desire to keep doing that thing. Because now when I get messages like that, I'm like, right, okay, I am on track. Sometimes I don't always get reviews. Sometimes I don't get a lot of reviews and I find out from people who have read my book, who message me privately, please don't share my name, or please don't, I haven't put a review, but I wanted to thank you, because they do not have the courage to say that they've read the book, because if they've read it, it begins to ask questions. Um, this is one of the reasons why people download the books into ebooks. One chap at the Frankfurt Book Fair said that, there's no way that he would write some of the things. So we were talking about the Man Up book that I produced with Tough to Talk, the men's mental health charity. And he said that he wouldn't actually write things into the reflections pages because he's got children. I said, well, if you're leaving a book like that around with your own personal notes around so your children can find them, then that's on you, not on the writer. And that's on you, not on the publisher. Because if they're, I mean, would he leave, sexual toys lying around? No, not when his children are around. Well, I mean, you never know these days. So much grooming going on in so many different ways. But again, it's like you've got to take responsibility and for yourself. And when you're creating something, or you're speaking out about something, or you're writing something very triggering or very controversial, you are going to get people that criticize you for doing so. And you've got to have the courage and the strength to stand tall and go, you know what, I own who I am. I also, for myself, some of my friends know, and me, that I've got a backbone of steel, a heart of mush, and the soul of a hippie. That's been said about me. Someone posted that and it went pretty viral amongst my own community and people I didn't know. But again, it's these things that actually people can identify you as. And it helps you stand for it helps you identify on a deeper level who you are. But it also means that when people are seeing this about you, maybe it's time to own it or reflect it, take some reflection time on it. Is this who I am? Am I not seeing this about myself? And no, seeing what you attract, seeing the kind of people you attract, because if the kind of people that you're attracting are not the kind of people that you would want to hang around socially, maybe that's the thing you're here to teach. Maybe that's the thing that you're here to guide people through. Again, finding out what your purpose is. You can book a narrative coaching session with me and I can help you find that. But again, you will be able to, if you just sit with yourself and ask yourself, never go to bed without a request to your subconscious. I read that once in a journal. And it's very true. If you want to find out who you are, go to sleep asking the question, who am I at my core? What am I here to do? And then you allow your subconscious to get to work. And then when you wake up in the morning, 9 times out of 10, you've got the answer. And the reason why I'm going on about all of this is I used to have a business, my first business, which I started when I was 21. And there were 2 instances in that business that really made me go, you know what? It's all right, but I don't want to do it anymore. The first instance was when I owned my courage and I had my backbone, but I was determined then to keep that business going. It was the second instance that made me change my direction, because just within a couple of weeks of me owning that and setting up that first business, there was a client that I'd had when I worked for somebody else. And I'd already reported him to my managing director at that time. And I'd say, because he kept harassing me and wanting me to meet him on a Friday afternoon to stay over in a hotel. Ladies, you know what I'm referring to here. Some of you men might be knowing what I'm referring to because you've done the same. So pack it in. And basically, he phoned up and said, I'll give you £500,000 contract if you meet me on Friday evening and we'll sign the details and then we'll celebrate together. We'll get a hotel room. And I basically told him in no uncertain terms that he needed to go home to his wife and find out why he married her and respect his parents, because he just greatly disrespected them by dishonoring the young man that they had probably hoped he would become, and also to respect his daughter and me and my husband and my parents, because when we do things like that, um, that's a dishonor on a very high level, but we see it a lot. Just the other day, I was having a conversation with a couple of people on Instagram because Graham Norton asked Keira Knightley about her sex faces. How many men get asked that question? But because she's a woman, that's okay. And she was obviously uncomfortable with it. It was very obvious from her body language. And even Samuel L. Jackson picked it up, and actually joined that conversation just to take the heat off her a bit. That's a gentleman. Graham Norton, absolutely not so much, or his producers, not so much. But again, it's like if you are going after fame or just money, it becomes pointless because to share the second incident, because I was not going to sign that contract, even if that contract had been 5 million or 500 million, there is no way I would have signed that contract just to spend a night. I don't have a price. I put value on my expertise and my experience, and as should you. But if you are just going to sleep your way to the top or sleep your way to, there's no value within you. You don't value yourself. That's empty value. Again, that's why profit is empty and meaningless. And it would have made me a very big competitor in the marketplace because I could have invested in staff, I could have invested in equipment, blah, blah, blah. But really, would I have done? With that £500,000, that would have lost me my self-respect. Plus, how much profit would I have made on that contract? So that's something to think about. The other thing that changed the game for me was when my second son was born. He came nearly 6 weeks early, and I was given 24 hours to live. And my and just before that, my ex-husband, who was my husband at the time, he had what they call an avian brain tumor. And that had happened a week after we'd moved to Sheffield. And these things that happened, he faced his mortality. I then faced my mortality. And it was like when you're given 24 hours to live and you're lying there in a hospital room and you look around you and you know that the baby is not within you because your stomach looks a little bit flatter. Not much because you still got the bumpy bit that, anyway. I was in a lot of pain, so I knew that I'd had to have a C-section. I didn't remember any of this. And I look around and there's no baby. So I grieved for my youngest son for an hour until my eldest son came running in with his dad and said, Mummy, Mummy, I've been to see my baby brother. And you'll read about that in Friday Bridge. And it was in those moments after they had left to go home, that I was like, do I really want to continue the business that I'm in? Because we were just making profit. We were producing CDs and software and giving them to other people. There was nothing with my name on it. That might have been an ego thing, but what was I really contributing to society? What was I actually contributing to the world at large? Yes, I was giving people jobs. Yes, we were making money. Yes, we had a nice life. Our boys went to private school. We had nice holidays. We had a nice car. We had, freedom to choose which projects we could work on. But what was I really contributing? What legacy was I creating for my sons? What was I what was I creating? Nothing really. Not of value, not to me. And it made me change the way I see things. And I really started to look deep into myself. You can't move after the C-section very well. These women that do, God bless them. But I mean, I did have HELLP syndrome. You'll read about that in the book. But it was like if I was to think about all the things that I love doing and that I could spend every single day of my life doing, what would they be and why? I love reading, believe it or not. And I love writing. I write very quickly. I write very deeply. And it's like I hate bullies. Quite political and quite outspoken. It was like, okay, if I was to combine all of those things, what would that look like? And I remembered that when I was a child, I wanted to get paid to read and write books for a living. That's great. I also wanted to have my own business. Tick, tick, tick. And again, it was about looking at who I was and who I've always been and what was really important to me. So standing up to bullies was really important to me. It didn't matter whether they're bullies in the playground, adults, mothers, and children, or teachers. And it didn't matter whether they were government, whether they were police officers. It didn't matter whether they were lawyers. It didn't matter who it was. I hate bullies. I can't stand them. Um, and it's like, and I want to be able to be with my children whenever I want to. And it was about my setting up a business for me wasn't my first act of what some people would call feminism, because I knew that I always knew, other than being paid to read and write books, I always knew I wanted to be a mum. I always knew I wanted two boys, 4 years apart, and yeah, but before the age of 30. That was what I knew, and that is what I was going for. Work backwards. And again, it was like, what kind of lifestyle do I want for me and my children? And I wanted to be able to go and see them on stage. I wanted to be able to cheer them on and jump up and down and possibly embarrass them on the rugby field, and things like that. But I also didn't want anybody else to tell me how much or how little I could earn, or how much I could, how much money I could make, or what I should and shouldn't be doing in my life. Bit of a rebel, hence why Friday Bridge is the first book in the Relentless Rebel duology. And when you read Friday Bridge, you'll understand why I am relentless and the rebellion, um, because I've never stopped. I have a proper farm girl work ethic. It's like you work, you can't just allow the weather to stop you from working when you're on the farm. And I'm not going to allow certain things to stop me from working on my business. I know what I want. I know where I'm going. And that's when you find, when you know without a shadow of a doubt what your purpose is, that's when you harness your power. And that is when you grow that backbone and you go, this is what I'm doing. No second guessing. I'm not going to allow anybody to derail me from that. And when you tap into that, that's when your ambition is unleashed. That is when nothing and no one is going to stop you, not even yourself. And when you do that and you show up as that, you show up as a true leader. Now, as you know, those of you who've been following me for the rest of, for a number of years, those of you who've been watching my YouTube channel for the previous few months, you'll know at the beginning of this year, I was in a pretty dark place, but I showed up. I was like, you know what? This weekly moment, I'm going to show up. I'm got to get out of bed. I've got to put on some clothes. And this was my anchor, even though I had just come out of a really nasty court case that completely wiped me out. My goals in January was get out of bed and stay out of bed. On a Thursday, it was show up for my weekly moment. These weekly moments, they kept me going, and it allowed me to still be of service to other people. And again, it's about building this business that not only serves others, but also serves yourself. And when we show up and we show up regardless, it's like, let's get out of bed and let's go change the world. I'm not saying I'm going to go change the world all in one day, but just day by day, book by book, person by person, reader by reader, mentee or coachee. Again, what are the small changes? Is it me getting out of bed and, sharing my journey so that somebody else is inspired to get up out of bed and continue on their journey? Is it me showing up without makeup on today? Because a lot of women, when we show up without makeup on, we're criticized. Yeah, oh well, you should be suited and booted, full face of makeup, hair done, like people in the corporate world. We are seeing a lot more of the dress downs, but there are still a lot of people within the corporate world that think professional is you showing up in a suit and tie, or a trouser suit for the ladies, and having your hair done, full face of makeup, even if it's natural. But that, unless you show up and you're doing that, then you're not being professional. You can go along to a business meeting, and I know that in some areas of the world following COVID, I mean, I've been to some meetings recently where it's like, my gosh, we really did go dress down that Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And you're seeing that some people they've kind of given up, and it's about you looking at how you are serving yourself. Are you dressing down because you've given up or because you're tired? If so, get some sleep. Running your own business allows you to sleep. It allows you, yes, you're going to have dark nights of the soul. Trust me. You're going to wake up with hot sweats going, what the fuck have I done? How am I going to pay these bills? That's at the beginning. You might be backed by other people. You might have investors from the get-go. But if you're bootstrapping your business, you are going to have to sacrifice on certain things like going out and, takeaways and lots of wine or, spa days all the time. Unless, of course, you are a spa day person and you are working in the spa. But again, it's about making sure that you honor who you are and the lifestyle that you want to lead. Because you've got to have that balance. Because if you are talking about strength and you're talking about purpose, like I am today, if you're talking about ambition and actually having a backbone, then you actually have to have the courage to say, you know what, I need to sleep. Yesterday, I was working on investment and financing. My brain went to sleep middle of the afternoon. I was like, okay, I'm done for the day. I was making mistakes because I was so tired because my brain was having a drain. I'm a writer. That's what I do. And again, but because I'm a writer, if I was just to rely on the royalties of my books, I would not be able to scale my business. I write for impact, but there's no point writing impactful books if no one's buying them. There's no point writing impactful books if no one knows about them. So again, this is how we're looking at business and how we're driving it forward. And getting, like I say, you've got to get the rest. And sometimes you have to take a step back to accelerate forward. And when we're looking at what it is that we're creating in business, one of the things that one of my very first employees nearly 30 years ago said to me, after he'd left, he was offered another job with a lot more money, and a little bit closer to home. And I was like, go for it, really, and so proud of you. He'd done so well. And he found me on LinkedIn many years later, and he said to me, he goes, I didn't know how good I'd got it with you. I said, well, because the thing is, it's like, I really don't care what hours my team worked. Even 30 years ago, it was like, you come in, you get the job done. If we've got a big order that we need to fulfill, as long as you're there to do that, and these are the deadlines, as long as you get your work done for the deadline, and it's not, and there's enough time for us to tweak it, and then we've got that contingency built in. I don't care what hours you work. I don't care what days you work. It really didn't matter to me. And we always had a weekly meeting. It'd be like we would align the business goals with their personal goals. It's like, okay, well, if you want to achieve this, then we can help you achieve that, but you need to help us achieve this. And it was that alignment, and it was about having music playing. We couldn't have music when there was one person because, well, my ex-husband, because of the brain injury. But when he wasn't in the office, me and Tom and Lisa, we would actually have the music playing. Michelle and I would have the music playing, probably have a bit of a dance. We had a couch, there was a fruit bowl, like it was a big family. And it was there about us uplifting and empowering our team, and for us to all grow and evolve together. But also, how much of an impact are we having? Like my team at the moment, Tai, she's in Nigeria. Khalid is remote, and Linda, she's in Sydney, and we're all over the world. Marilyn's in the States, and and again, it's about looking at what the business is. And if I'm saying I'm sustainable or that I believe in freedom and inclusivity, then it's like, okay, well, how am I doing that? Some of my team are in Brazil. And, if I want to make an impact, I pay at a certain rate. And then that helps other people live the life in their country the way they want to live a life. It helps them because obviously I know that the sterling is stronger than a lot of other currencies. Again, how are we changing our business models and implementing things within our business that actually allows us to create that impact? Um, it's people talk about it, but how are they actually doing it? How are they actually honoring? I know the reasons why Tiny is having a couple of days off today. It's about geeing her up and giving her that time. It's about making sure that she is well looked after. Because if we look after her well, then hopefully she's going to look after the business well. She really does. Again, and if I want my team to grow with me and stay loyal to me, then it's about acknowledging where they're at. We have a rule at DBI, family first. If you need time off to be with your family, then you take that time off. If you need time to go and have a nap, go have a bloody nap. Do the work when you wake up. Again, it's about making sure that you're creating that environment so that your team flourish. And we'll get the jobs done. As long as we hit the deadlines and as long as we hit the targets, we'll get the jobs done. But it's about setting realistic targets for yourself as the leader of that business. Because when we actually do that and we actually play the long game, which I think I'm coming on to in a bit, when we play that long game, we actually achieve a lot more. When we take that pressure off, and you know, mistakes are allowed to be made within the business because we learn from them. We go, okay, well, we just did some bookmarks and the QR code wasn't working for some reason. We handed them out. We got some stickers. We stuck them on. We did it. We managed to overcome something, and now we've had to put another process in to make sure that these things happen as they're supposed to happen. But again, it's about remembering that the people that work within our team and the people that we're serving, whether it's through product or through services, they're human. And it's about treating them as humans rather than just a number. And making sure that everything that we stand for in business, every process, every system, every choice and decision that we make in the business is honoring the purpose of the business and honoring the things that we stand for. And if it doesn't stand, if the people that we choose as suppliers or the processes or the organizations don't actually align with our values, then why are we doing it? Is it because they're the only one? Is it because of some twisted sense of loyalty or obligation? But people talk about sustainability. But what they're really only talking about a lot of the time is the sustainability, like recycling or their carbon footprint. The sustainability is you as a human being. Your sustainability is your team. Your sustainability is your finances and your business. I've been able to sustain my business over the last 12 months, even though I've been ill and even though I've had to take a step back, the business is still going. It's not as strong as it was because I had to take back and I was the main income earner, but it's still going. And that is a key when you know that you have created something with a strong foundation and you have got a great team surrounding you because you are someone who leads by purpose and actually honors them and empowers them, then you're actually you're going to have people having your back and standing by you. And those people are really worth rewarding when things, transform and turn around. And again, with this whole sustainability thing, sustainability has become such a buzzword. So has authenticity. So has thought leader and all of these. And it's like buzzword bingo at the ready. It's not impressive. Just because you know all of these key phrases and you're using them, they don't really mean anything. They really don't. I heard someone say the other day, think beyond like blue sky thinking. No, I don't want blue sky thinking. I want to get on my Hessian mat and, the ones you ride the helter skelters with. And I want to go through the black holes and the wormholes and go around the cosmos. And, we've got a huge galaxy beyond the sky. Why are we not playing in that space? Why are we not going, you know what, let's go do this and let's create that? And the person who I am at this level is dreaming of that, and the person at that level is dreaming of that. So I'm going to step into that third level, and that's what I'm going to be working on now, because then we get to collapse time. And I know I've mentioned this, but again, When we do that, we accelerate our results. And it's not for other people to understand. Just because they don't do it in their business or because they don't understand the collapsing of time and they don't understand what we're doing and they might not believe in us. Again, are they the right people to have within our business? But the thing is, I mean, I've said here, build a business that makes waves of change around the world because I'm a sailor girl. We love the waves. I love playing in them. I love surfing them. I love sailing with them. And it's like looking at the differences that we can create in the world. Is the fact that the all the royalties from the potent power of menopause that I get, they go towards the humanitarian foundation in Costa Rica for the Nicaraguan refugees. I'm making change there. I'm empowering women in business there. Is it the fact that I help that we're with the reader experiences that we're doing. We're selling face masks with the potent power of menopause and some of that our books. Because when you're reading a book, what do, girls? You put your face mask on. It's great. You have a mug of cocoa, you put your face mask on, you get your book, you put your bookmark, and you just read, right? So again, what products are you buying into your business or partnering with that you can actually then create all of this impact with? Like with the tropic products, we help restore the restore and protect the coral reefs. We plant trees in forests. We educate children around the world. And it took me a long time to find the right suppliers to go with my reader experiences. And it doesn't matter that other people think that I'm a writer and I shouldn't be selling skincare products. I'm not there going to give you a facial. No, I'm not that person. I don't use all the products. I know what I like and I know what I use. And that for me is good. Again, it's bold enough to me to say, well, I don't use those products. You'd have to speak to somebody else about it. But, just try it. Try it. You might like it. It's always a good one. But again, when you're building a business that's really steeped in purpose and you really do want to make change around the world, you've got to understand that it is a slow burn business. It is one of those you've got to look at the long game because change does not happen. And if you're working with government or you want to change the way that processes are done and the way that industries are in that you're working in, or you want to, help protect children, or you want to build social housing properties, it's going to take time. Everything takes time. And the thing is, we're in such a society now where everyone wants everything done straight away. I call it the credit card culture because you just want to whack it on the card and get it done. That's not how things are done, especially if you want to have an impactful business. You've got to have people's trust. You've got to have those strong foundations in your business, but you've also got to have that backbone. You have got to have that resilience that will keep you going. And you've got to understand that while you're facing these challenges, some of the things that you will learn if you are into policy change, some of the attitudes of people, some of the things that people are going through, how are you protecting yourself? How is what you're doing really truly healing other people and yourself? So my books, people, I call them healing by osmosis. Some people call them bibliotherapy, because, you're healing by reading. And it's about making sure that if you want those books in those bookstores or you want those books in those at that conference to be sold, if you want these books to change lives, it's about identifying the people who will actually help you sell them or help you get your products into the places where they should be, or they need to be. And like I said at the beginning, vanilla is the foundation. You need to figure out who you are because sometimes I don't know why I'm holding these business cards, to be honest. I keep waving them around. I'm just playing snap with them probably. But it's my next task. It really is. Digress. But as I said a few moments ago, that when you start looking at everybody else's business model and looking at what they're doing, you can sometimes get side railed into doing what they're doing and you lose who you are. Don't lose who you are. Speak your mind, speak your truth, honor who you are, because I might like vanilla, but I like a bit of rum and raisin in mine, and if you can chuck some pistachio in there as well, hello, I love that. And It might not be everybody's flavor, but it's so my flavor. Rum, raisin, and pistachio. Who doesn't want that? I mean, come on. Like, hello. It's a great ice cream. I have to add my own pistachios, so I crush them all up. But again, that's what I do. We make up things as we go along. We go, okay, I really fancy that. I had an Earl Grey ice cream when I was in Tofino on Victoria Island, when I was in Canada. And they were like, my God, it was a competition. People like they'd made this ice cream and it was an anonymous ice cream. They didn't put a name on it. The moment, so I looked at it, I was like, yeah, I'll try that. And then I tasted it straight away. As soon as I smelt it, I was like, that smells like Earl Grey. And as soon as I tasted it, I was like, this is Earl Grey. And they were like, what? I was like, this is Earl Grey. It's got bergamot in it. And they were like, oh, you're the first person to get that. I'm like, well, yeah, I know. I drink Earl Grey. But again, do I want Earl Grey ice cream? It was quite nice. Do I want cheese ice cream like me and my son had when we were in Brazil? No, no, we don't. Not our thing. Not even when you're trying to imagine it with digestive biscuits and a lemon, as a cheesecake. Just was not happening. Really quite disgusting. But there we go. That was a flavour that we didn't like, but no doubt other people do. Uh, I've put this kind of business that you're building, if you are building one of purpose and power and backbone and integrity and all the things that I've mentioned in here, it's not easy. And I've put in, but neither is childbirth. When I was giving birth, I didn't stop going, no, it's too hard, put it back in. No, I didn't. Would not work. When you set out, so if you quit at the first hurdle, um, or the second or the third, it can be disheartening when you're putting your message out there and you're putting your offers out there and people aren't buying and friends aren't recommending people, clients aren't referring, suppliers aren't referring people to you. And after a while you start to think, well, why aren't these people that are in my team or aren't in my social circle, why aren't they referring people to me? Why aren't they buying from me? And it makes you consider, actually, are these the right people in my life? Because I want people who are in my life that inspire me. And they are the questions that you need to be asking yourself. You need to be asking yourself, are the people that surround you now, are they the people that deserve to be in your future? Because if they're not supporting you and they're not referring people to you and they're not looking to celebrate you when you have a big win, they don't really deserve to be around you, really. So why are they? Just because you've had a past with them doesn't mean to say that you get to have a future with them. And so that's something really, really big that a lot of people fail to remember. It doesn't mean saying cut them off completely. It just means put them to the side a bit. Proximity pricing, that you've got to be aware of the saboteurs and the assassins in your space. There are a lot of them out there. And whilst there are some people who have very, very supportive communities, such as Lara, we launched Lara Latcham's book, Estella, a novel, last week. And that was very exciting. I went along to her book launch to support her on the evening. And it was such a beautiful evening. There was so many people turn out to support her. And so I said, oh my God, it's so lovely to see. And one lady said, it's because she's so kind and she's always giving and she's very loyal, but what also helped is that Lara's always lived in that area. Her parents had a retail store. They had a bookstore, actually, so Lara has stayed in that area and she has traveled a bit, but she's always gone back. So if you're in a community where people know you and you've got long-term friends and, you are kind, then it is going to pay dividends. But there are also those people who are also very kind, very loyal, very giving, that have lived in the same area for a while, but they're not as supportive. And no one knows why. God only knows why, as they say. But I've attended some book launches where it's just been the author and the publisher, and nobody's turned up, even though lots of people said they were going. But they chose something else on the evening. And that is so heartbreaking, that you would put so much effort into something and the people that you trusted and the people that you love The people that say they're your friends and that they support you, they don't come along to support you. Prepare for that because it is a real thing. And you can put out content as much as you like. You can ask friends to, buy your book. Your friends will know about your books. They will know about your products. There will be people that know about a lot of things to do with you, and they still won't buy from you. So do not expect family and friends to buy from you. So again, it's not about leaving your fate in other people's hands by working for other people, because you could actually get made redundant at any time. You do not leave your the success of your business in the hands of your friends and family. And I mentioned here, I mean, I've just overshot it but parenting inspired activism and entrepreneurship. That's how I started. Back then when I said I was laying in that hospital bed, and I wanted to have a business of purpose. I set up my first business because I knew I wanted to have my own business. I just didn't know what it looked like. But then when I was made redundant and I set up my first company, all of my suppliers and all of my customers that I'd been working with, or all the suppliers, not all of my suppliers, they became my supplier because I did a really bloody great job. I had integrity. I delivered. I said I'd do something, and so I did it. And again, it's about me being true to who I am. I'm a hard worker. I'm honest to a fault sometimes for some people. And if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I will communicate that it might be delayed or it might come early. But again, it's about making sure that these are all the skills that you're going to need when you set up your business. You are going to need integrity. You are going to be needed to be trustworthy. And you get to design your life the way you want to live it. If you want to do that training course, the beauty of working for yourself is you can go do that training course. A lot of the time you can get funding for it, or you can get a grant for it, or you can pay for things in installments, but you get to choose. You get to choose how much money you make. You get to choose what your party looks like. Now, I call it the party test. I think I'm jumping ahead of myself here, but I'll go on that thread now. But if you're designing your life, you want to be designing it like it's a party. So you know where it's going to be. You're not going to know what the decorations are going to be. You're going to know what the theme is, the food. You've got to cost all of this up. And that's your life. You've got to cost up your life. Consider it a party and then invite the right people. And when I say invite the right people, it's like, if this person said yes, how would I feel? If it's, oh God, they said yes. Why are you inviting them? Is it out of obligation? Is it out of duty? Is it because you feel that you owe them? Or are you saving face? Those, oh God, they said yes. They're not really the people you want in your life. They're the ones you put on the back burner. Again, you've really got to start thinking differently when you run your own business. Because especially those of you who want to write a book, because people love to be friends with the author. And that's my friend Dawn. She's an international best-selling author. Did you know she's got this many books to her name? Not interested in people that are wanting the reflective glory. Thank you very much. But again, you've got to have those of us that go on to achieve things by ourselves, for others. Again, it's like the difference in mindset. If we're just going to go to a job, we're going to wake up, we're going to go to a job, do the job, go home, get paid. There are people like that, and they do incredibly well. But how much joy do they have in their life? How much joy and how much sense of satisfaction do they have? I know so many people in the corporate world who are just so disillusioned, so depressed. They don't feel like going anywhere. And then they get into their late 50s and they're like, boom, I need to start my own business. Because they realize that they've given their life away to so many other entrepreneurs and they've built their dream. They haven't built their own. So if you have been working for somebody else, you might really need to have a huge mindset shift, because if you don't really want to look for another job, then probably going into business is not the thing for you, because going after clients is like looking for a job. You are constantly looking for a new job whilst building a business, because new clients are new jobs, and it's understanding that distinction that really matters. I was saying here, staying grounded in your mission. You have to. You absolutely have to. If you're getting out of bed and you're resenting your business, find out why. Is it because you followed the way everybody else is doing it? Is it because you've surrounded yourself with the wrong people? Or is it because you just wanted to do something that wasn't working for someone else? Have you given yourself a job, or have you given yourself a business? Um, and these are some of the really key things that you need to be looking at. And I've said before, know who you are and what you stand for, understand why your hobbies and interests are what they are. Because when we do that, we it tells us a lot about us. It tells, the sports that we do. Are you a loner? I love reading, I love ice skating, I love swimming. And then I'm like, okay, they're all solo sports, really. I mean, I'm what do they call them? I'm not a synchronized swimmer, so it's not a team sport. Not a relay swimmer, not a team sport. And but when you're swimming against yourself. You might be part of a bigger team all going after medals, but ice skating, you might be part of a national team, but ice skating, unless you're in partners, you're by yourself. It's on you. And reading, it's such a solitary hobby. But again, it's like, why do we do it? It's like, because I enjoy my own time. I enjoy, I back myself. Um, and you've all seen how I get off on these rants about books and politics and, the honesty and what have you. This is me on my soapbox, and it's me working for myself allows me to share. It allows me to express myself. If I worked for a corporate, or for somebody else, I wouldn't be able to be all of who I am. A lot of I would say the majority of companies. I even have some people say to me, I would love to work with you, but my investors or my partners, or I'm afraid I'll lose clients because I tackle harsh subjects. And this person hasn't got the backbone to stand up to the people. Even though it's their business, they have not got the backbone to stand up to and say, you know what, I want to do this. I am going to speak out about this, and I am going to do this. They haven't got that backbone. And that's what it means, that you've got to be willing to own who you are. That is the ultimate freedom. But just because you are doing what you absolutely want to do and you have that freedom, does it actually impact your income to such an extent that you become what they call a starving artist? Lots of authors live on below the poverty line. And that's the starving artist, whether you're a painter or a sculptor or an actress, oh sorry, an actor, thespian, or whether you're an author. A lot of creative people, the artists, they're broke. They are living below the poverty line, or they're living in poverty because they don't know the business end of things. They don't know how to build a business around what it is that they're doing or their passion. And they go, oh no, I just like to create. Well, I'm sure you don't like living off scraps either. I'm sure you don't like choosing between heating and some, and being freezing cold. Again, if you're in a situation where you're writing books or you're creating artwork or what have you, and you're starving, then there's an imbalance. You've got to be able to make money. And that's why I share a lot of what I'm sharing in these videos. It's my way of giving back and actually helping, coaching many, inspiring many, and mentoring and informing you, giving you this advice and this information so that if you haven't got the money to learn, you've got this content. I did a masterclass last night. It wasn't a masterclass. I didn't learn anything. I mean, I learned a few bits, but it wasn't a masterclass. And there's a lot of masterclasses out there that are not masterclasses. They're really not. The thing that all businesses need, not most businesses, all businesses need is different revenue streams. You need ideally 7 different revenue streams, passive incomes, because you want to be having Swiss money, and Swiss money is sales whilst I sleep soundly. And it's about you really going to bed and knowing that your business is turning over a profit. Books are great. The merchandising is great. the products that we're launching in the DBI Author Academy, the narrative coaching course, it's a 7-week author course, the author essentials that I've created. All of these things are available for people to purchase at any given time. So whilst I'm sleeping, I'm making money, but I'm also creating impact so people around the world can actually access my coaching, because I know that many people can't afford my one-on-one coaching, but I know that there's a much larger amount of people who need my help, who want my help, that can actually afford to join the Author Academy, or they can buy my books and actually heal themselves from the challenges that they're going from, instead of actually waiting for a therapist or paying for a therapist or paying for a counselor. My books do not substitute counseling and therapy, and they are only there as a guide and an inspiration for you to get the help you need. So don't think that books, replace counseling and therapy, because again, they're for general information and your case will be very different and very personal. But again, it's about creating all of these different things that create this ripple effect. I've already mentioned that are you giving yourself a job or building a business? Because again, if you create a business where without you it falls apart, you've given yourself a job. And again, if you don't like looking for a job, you're not really going to like running a business, because you're constantly looking for clients, or taking on new clients. So again, we're at the end. I've come up to full time. Woo! I just looked over there because that's where the clock is on the cooker. Remember, so that I really do, as always, thank you for being here. I want you to remember that when you understand who you are and what it is that you want and how you want to live your life and why you want to live it that way, that is where the gold is. And that is where you can actually just then accelerate and amplify your message. Plan the party and invite the right people. Remember, life by design, not by accident. There are going to be opportunities that present themselves that make you think that, oh, that was a happy accident. There are no happy accidents. There are no coincidences. When you do life by design, then joy happens. It'll be a little bit stressful at times, because when you're building something, birthing something, you're going to have labor pains, but you get over it. Trust the process. Ignore everybody else that's saying no, 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 because those people have probably never even gone after something that they want to do, or they don't want you to do it because it will make them look bad, or they're afraid for you because of their comfort zones. Follow your soul. Follow that internal voice that's saying you've got to do this. This is what you were born to do. Or this is who you were born to be. I mean, look at Taylor Swift. She always knew that she would be a singer and songwriter, and that's what she was going to do. Always knew it. And look at where she is now. Because soul always knows. Your soul will be your best guide. And if you turn down the volume of everybody else and turn up the volume of your soul, you will find your magic. And always remember that your ideas and your voice matter. So use them. So that is that for today. I am going to invite you, if you are an author and you are writing something and you don't know where to start, then do book an author strategy session with me. They're 30 minutes long. Monday, the 3rd of November, we've got those appointments from 3:45 till 5 p.m. available. As you can see, no longer am I offering them on a Wednesday and a Friday. So if you do want to book a time with me, then do go to the link here. Tai, when she's back on Monday, she will be sending out this video and uploading it to YouTube, and also including all of the links. She doesn't want me to do it. Probably best, actually. And this again is Friday Bridge. This is the book that inspired this series. Some of it is crossed over with Wallahi, but Wallahi's got its own series at the beginning of next year. And so we're going to be talking about in that, when we do the Wallahi series, it is going to be about what it's like living life as an expat, parenting different cultures, and living under a dictatorship and being part of an uprising and revolution. But again, Friday Bridge, it is a multifaceted book. All of the subjects you've seen in this series, I've covered it in this book. So please do go to the dawnbates.com/relentless-rebel. It isn't just about the racism that's here in this country, or about raving, although there's a good amount of raving in there. Remember, I think it was like week 4, we did God, drugs and techno or something. It seems like so long ago. This is like week 15, as I said. But please do go and purchase the book. If you'd like to actually purchase a signed copy from me, just send me a DM or send me a message, and we can get that to you. That is it from me today. I'm going to stop sharing. I think I already have stopped sharing. I'm not quite sure. But please do reach out if you would like an author strategy session, if you'd like to book me for a workshop or an event to speak, or if you'd like to find out more about our services, then I would be truly grateful for your support. And remember, if you've enjoyed this video or you know somebody who would really gain value to it, put their note, tag them in the comments or send it to them. And yeah, I'll hopefully see you next week for week 16. Ciao for now.